Training camp week 1 nearly done for the Pacers. What has happened so far? What has stood out? What have I seen that you can't? We'll break down week 1 of camp, talk a little bit about Sunday's Fan Gym, and a little bit of Myles Turner on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Congrats. You made it through the weekend. Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes. And today, a week of training camp has gone by, or at least it will have gone by. By the end of Friday, the Pacers are doing stuff. Conditioning is coming up. Guys look confident. Guys are making threes. Everybody's in the best shape ever. And regardless of all that being true or not true, I want to tell you guys what has been said that I think matters a lot, what I've seen at camp that I think is interesting or important or has made my eyes perk up in a certain way or has made me inspired to write a story, because week 1 of camp can be a tone setter. This is the most practice time teams get all season. This matters a great deal. Dalen Wright spoke. James Wiseman spoke. They did not speak on media day, so we learned from those guys. We'll get to all of it today. But I want to start with something that I think is very interesting thematically, not just for the Pacers, but in the entire NBA. And that is conditioning. And we've heard it from the Pacers for a couple of years, obviously. Their style really demands it. And there's one specific player that I will use as the bridge story for this in a second. But this is a trend thing to me. Whereas in the past, what you'd hear teams say is they want to play faster and shoot more threes, and that's the media day joke that everybody makes. To me, this year, the new thing that every team is saying isn't that. They're all saying we want to be well-conditioned and in the best shape possible. And I'm not saying the Pacers inspired that. You always want to be in good shape and in condition, but the NBA has certainly evolved from a time where you day 1 of the season and getting into shape started literally at the first day of the season. And now all these teams, guys come into town a few weeks earlier and they're practicing together and they're in better shape quicker. Conditioning in the way the NBA is now, with some teams, Pacers do this, full court pressing, and you have to cover more space when you're moving around and, all sorts of things. The physicality ad means you have to have your body ready for more. Conditioning is such a thing in the league. And when I've listened in on other teams' media things around the league just to see what's going on, I hear conditioning all the time. And so I think the Pacers are prepared for it, maybe not better than other teams, but by having a structure in place, they already know how to properly evaluate it from some past seasons. They do their own rigorous kind of conditioning tests and things of that sort. And you can really tell it's a focus when it's said straight up that guys aren't or didn't succeed early in their conditioning fights and now are, or did really well early on, being a focus in the case of James Wiseman. So in the terms of conditioning, I think that has been an early theme, is that we've heard about it a lot. So Jay Huff is the guy I want to use as the bridge guy for this, because he's only been on the team for 3 months. He got traded in early July, and we were talking to Rick Carlisle about him. And of course, he says all the things that makes him fit well, right? The shooting, the defense, the shot blocking, that's so great. But he's like, Rick said this. He said when he got here, he had to figure out the conditioning thing, right? And that was really interesting to me, the way he said it. The exact quote was, well, the biggest thing was conditioning. When he got here 3 weeks ago, he wasn't ready for this. He got the message pretty quickly as we were playing games and doing things informally, and he really picked it up over the last 2.5 weeks and made a lot of progress. And Jay Huff said and explained that play pickup, you work on getting in shape. Jim Boylan helped him get on the right path towards it, and he's good to go. But that is the level of command required of the way the Pacers specifically require your conditioning. It's not lip service. It's a real deal thing that matters a lot to them. And we've obviously seen that for forever with them, but a guy who played on a team with a high pace last year, the Grizzlies were not a slow offense by any means. Obviously, they led the league in real pace. I wouldn't say they were the fastest team, but their actual pace per 100 possessions was the fastest, number 1 in the NBA, right? Jay Huff played on that team last year. And this year he's oh my God, this is something else. So that is a league theme. And I think the Pacers are ahead of it or on it in a way that is really meaningful, and also meaningful in that context that they're being very honest about who is and is not, up to the level of condition. It's not just gassing someone up to say they are. James Wiseman, who we'll talk about him later, towards Achilles last season, was one of their last guys to drop out of the conditioning stuff they do. Right? He made it really far in the process. He committed to that as something he could do while he was actually injured, just do what he could to be in the best shape possible. And so two different players with different stories there. Not that Huff can never get into shape. I think he already is. And I'm not even getting in shape is not even the right words for it, right? Being at Pacers condition. Huff might be there now, like he already said, he's through that. But I think that's such an interesting early theme for the Pacers in camp to me, is that has become such a buzzword. And it's so much more fascinating to me that you hear it so much around the league. Something else that has stood out to me, maybe not from a what he's saying perspective, because you guys can hear the interviews, right? They'll get posted everywhere. But kind of how he's saying it perspective is Jarace Walker just seems like he's 6 years older all of a sudden. He, not that he was quiet or immature in any way last year, but he has more of those things this year. He is a little louder. His voice carries a little more. He's more confident in the way he speaks and what he's saying and the belief. And he is certainly more mature in the answers that he's giving and the realizations he's had about his career to this point. And now he knows how big of a season this is for him. I don't know what specifically it was in his life that got him to this point, but I've been very impressed by his attitude and the way he's carried himself, even beyond the way he's played when we've been able to see any sort of little sliver of basketball. He came over, we requested him for questions the second day of camp. And he's usually, all right, here come the questions. And he answers them kind of guy. He came over and he turns, he faces the media and he starts to make jokes, the default answers. And he's like, yeah, everybody's in the best shape ever. And we're all having a great time. Best camp ever. And, we were laughing. I haven't heard Jarace go for a joke ever, I think, in a media setting, unless he was asking his teammates to order him Culvers when he wasn't even the subject of the media setting. So I just feel like he has really mentally grown. And I've been impressed by that. And I'm curious to see if that translates to the court, because I'm going to write a story about him, but I have found, I already mentioned it on the show, but I have found his kind of journey and realization about the importance of year 3 to be very interesting. Stuff I've seen that you can't see, because this is not stuff that gets posted or anything like that. Two guys standing out as shooters, maybe more than I expected. One is maybe not a guy that you didn't expect. You just don't know on the translation from college to the pros. But when Talon Peter does the shooting drills, yeah, good. It's a thing, man. That guy's jumper is legit. The numbers from Liberty were real. We saw it a little bit in Summer League, but it was streaky, and it was his first time, and he kept passing out of him. When he is forced to do the drill, shoot 25 threes, 5 from each spot, I'm like, oh, man, this guy can really shoot it. His motion is awesome. I'll be so curious if it translates to games in the NBA or G League, because it's so encouraging so far to see what he's able to do with the jump shot. The other guy is Tony Bradley. Tony Bradley's 3 looks better. It's not a thing that I expect to be every game you got to space Tony Bradley and put him behind the 3-point line. You all remember the 3 he hit in that game the Wizards made against the Wizards, where the Pacers made every single shot into the sun, and then he hit the side of the backboard. Remember, he did make his first 3 before that last season, but he rang the bell. He made 20 out of 25 in that exact drill. I don't know what he would say in terms of this, but I don't recall him being close to being at that level of a shooter last year, even in that kind of setting. So certainly progress for him. So one of those two obviously is much more surprising than the other. The guy that made threes in college, obviously it's not surprising he's making threes in the pros, but a noteworthy level of shooting from both of them in a way that I've really enjoyed. Stuff we've kind of been able to see, mostly have been told they're doing the one-on-one contests again this year. The first day, the winner was Jarace Walker. The second day, the winner was Ben Mathurin, 2 guys who recent lottery picks have, of course, some nice ability on the ball on both ends of the floor. Seem like natural winners for the drill. I'll be very curious if we hear any more about that. Thing 3, Jay Huff's really funny. Jay Huff, every time we've kind of heard about him from a teammate or coach, they talk positively about his game and they throw in and he's a good personality fit, right? We've heard that from a few people, and I think that it's very obvious even from just his media settings that he's a little goofy in a good way. And for a team like this that has, as Myles said last year, the power of friendship Pacers, their locker room camaraderie is very important to them. And I think Jay Huff so far has been, certainly additive to that in a way. That's really interesting. His fit as a person will be key this year. The last thing I've noticed / seen that, isn't super relevant, but is still relevant. Tyrese Haliburton's there. He's sitting and watching practices, right? And, right after the injury, he was at the draft workouts and summer league stuff. And, he's just everywhere, man. He goes to all the Fever and Colt stuff he can, and he's watching these practices. Like, he is doing everything he can to be involved. And I remember I asked that question about his season. What can you get out of this, Tyrese Haliburton? You're out for the year. How can you have any sort of positive takeaway from the season? Well, this is one way. Watch practice, learn something about your teammates, learn something about how your coaches run practice. Anything that could be additive to his experience is a boost. He's been watching every time so far. Seems like he's in a good mood, obviously, to the extent that he can be. Let's run through some stuff that guys said that I thought was interesting or noteworthy. Jarace Walker stuff, Delon Wright, James Wiseman, and so much more coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, let's talk about Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface right on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. You've been putting off organizing your finances. Monarch is for you. They do the heavy lifting for you so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Things like identifying where you're not saving as much as you thought. They can help you notice inefficient investments and allocations, discover forgotten 401ks, maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, easily review your finances with a partner, and so much more. With Monarch Money, do not let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Or second listen, Locked On Sixers or Locked On Warriors. They got their deals done with their restricted guys. They'll tell you more about it in those shows. The Sixers played a game. Preseason has started. What? I need to watch it. Fever X interviews interfered with my ability to, but the Sixers played a game. The Knicks played a game. Make any of those shows your second listen. Hear about what's happening in the NBA in a way that only Locked On can. Okay, what has been said that matters, right? We got from Rick Carlisle the stuff they're working on day one being conditioning, pace, tempo, physicality, defense, and rebounding. That's everything. And then he talked a lot about conditioning. So like sometimes in this camp stuff, the stuff said is a lot of like, yep, this is camp. They're going to say kind of stuff. However, I'll say this, the stuff that does matter that's been said. One, they already have kind of started working on their adjustments in style from last season. I think getting the ground rolling on that early instead of having it be refreshers because 90% of the team is the same as last year is a good thing to do. Two, injuries. Cam Jones was going to miss the first couple days. Ben Shepherd was going to miss the first couple days. And Ray J. Dennis was, I believe, part-time was Carlisle's description of him. So that's some injuries. And I think that's part of why they brought in some ball handling wings for camp is that, if you, and I think they are certainly given that Delon Wright got signed, kind of putting Cam Jones in an off-ball guard spot now. Him and Shepherd both being out means they need more of those guys. Here comes Gabe McLaughlin. Here comes Jalen Slauson to fit in to those slots so that they can cover for the injuries there. But yeah, that's the current injury update. We'll see how long those things last when they play a game, air quotes, in Fan Jam on Sunday. Mike Weiner, Rick talked a little bit about his absence and how big of a loss it is for the Pacers, but no specifics still on the departure. Johnny Carpenter, his replacement, he likes his vibrancy, he said, his experience that he brings. They did overlap once before when Carpenter was a video coordinator for, I believe, when they were with the Mavericks. And they said that, I already mentioned this, but that they brought 21 players partially because of injuries. And this is, again, something that I said yesterday. Like, bringing 21 is just something you should do if you can. Bring as many players as possible. It makes sense to do so. I think it's good that the Pacers are doing so. Get a look at more guys. It's better for your G League product. It's all very good. For Jay Huff, he said, besides the conditioning stuff that I already talked about, he's been getting a lot more comfortable as things go. Specifically, playing pickup has been helpful for him to kind of figure out what's going on. But something that stood out to me that he said is, and like, I know this, I've looked at his basketball reference page, I've seen him play for lots of different teams in his career, but like, this is his 5th training camp in the NBA. All 5 have been with different teams, right? So for him, like, any sort of, he's good at getting up to speed, but like any quick amount of chemistry he can gain is really important just because he's got a lot of just shifting he's had to do. Defensive concepts are all new for him. Every team he goes to, every team's defending differently. The Pacers do very unique things. So he's got to pick up stuff fast because he's their only new guy who's going to play major minutes probably in their rotation, right? So really interesting to hear him talk about just how much he's had to change teams. And I asked him about passing, right? Because I mentioned this on the center season preview. He's never been in a role where he's been asked to pass the ball a lot. He's going to have to at least probably be more involved as a passer, not like throwing dimes, but like setting people up, being a fulcrum like Myles was. And he's ready for that, right? He said he's comfortable for it. He goes, I'm not Jason Kidd, but he thinks he can do it. So that was at least interesting. Jarace Walker, something that I didn't talk about with him after talking about him in the first segment was he talked about how hard it was for him to miss the finals, right? And I wonder, to relate this to some of the stuff I said already, where, he seems very mentally loose and light in a good way, and he's more confident. How much him missing the finals and being more appreciative of basketball has kind of led to this mentality shift where he's just much happier being around. I don't know that he wasn't happy before, to be clear, or anything like that. In fact, I'm not implying that at all. He seems happier and lighter and smilier in a good way. He wasn't 100% from his ankle injury until late August. I did not realize how far that was for him. So the fact that he's already up to good shape and playing is a good deal. And something he mentioned when he was talking about the Pacers' style and Jay Huff and, things of that sort he mentioned. Of course, we know this, but IQ being so important with the ball movement the Pacers have, the concepts, the actions, and there's certain players that are good fits. And this really goes back to what I talked about 2 days ago, talking about the Fever. Identity is so key to having a good team, and this is partially why I still believe in the Pacers' ability to win games this year. They have an identity and a style that works, and they know what it takes for players to fit in it. So, yeah. And then Rick Carlisle also talked about Jarace's situation as he was talking about his development for the first couple of years. And I just thought the confluence of Jarace being a top 10 pick and the expectations that come with that, plus his position being very crowded and the Pacers immediately being a good team right when he got drafted, it all he's had such an interesting career. And every time I hear people talk about Jarace, I'm like, man, we got ahead of ourselves, burying him on the bench. I think it's possible that he has a very big season and has a nice bigger role. Okay, two guys we didn't hear on media day that I want to talk about. James Wiseman, Rick Carlisle calling him still a great prospect. They love him as a person. They love the size. A lot of the stuff we heard last year, but they still do, even post-Achilles, which is, of course, important, which is why they re-signed him. I mentioned the conditioning test, but that's something that Carlisle said is they love the running specifically at that size, right? If this is going to be a good transition team or a team that, has very good transition principles and uses that to get points, having a huge center who can run really well is going to be big. But yeah, helps with the aggressive kind of nature of his rehab. Wiseman explained really helped with his conditioning too. And he's been ready to go kind of since the jump, right? So that's good for him being good to go. Of course, Isaiah Jackson as well, but we had talked to him on media day. And I think that Wiseman had the right attitude to be able to, he needed to be ready to go for his camp this year, right? To be able to keep playing in his career after having two, season ending injuries within his first 5 seasons. So respect to him. He's doing it exactly right now. He says he feels great and blessed to be playing again. He's still very confident in himself. And he said, and you can see this, he doesn't seem thinner, I would say. He just looks maybe a little skinnier in the neck and the face. He said he's in great shape, better shape than he was at this time last year. Given the injury he went through, I thought that was very impressive. He's trying to maximize the opportunity and working on his body when he could. He made it count. And you can tell, right? You can look at the guys and tell. And of course, they're being very honest about their conditioning level. Like I said at the start, James Wiseman certainly a part of that group. Delon Wright, their new third-string point guard. I actually missed this interview myself because I was running to the airport to get to Vegas on time for Fever Aces, but I have now since watched it back. Justin Dopirak on the mic for these. He only found out about this chance. Keep this in mind throughout all of training camp with Delon Wright, by the way, a week ago from Thursday. So when this episode comes out, that'll be 8 days. So they're in camp and he's been on the team, or known he'd be on the team for less than a week. And yet he likes the play style. He likes the ball movement. He played against it last year, deep in the playoffs. He knows what it is that is so challenging about it to play against and how it can be effective, and it fits in well. And of course, having experience playing with Rick Carlisle, and this is the unspoken part of this every time, but he brought it up. There's other staff members who came from the Mavs to the Pacers from those teams. So he has a lot of experience with other coaches as well. That's been big for him as well. And as he remembers what the way the Pacers are, I think that was really attractive to him on this team. As for the roster battle he's a part of, I need to talk to Tony Bradley about this as well. But Delon Wright said it's the first time ever for him, right? Every time he's been on a team before this, guaranteed contract or very clear, obvious spot on the team for him. This time it's not there. He's got to earn it. He said, quote, "They know what I do. They brought me here for a reason." I agree with that. I think the fact that he got signed last means they assessed their situation and said, yes, we still want a point guard. That probably makes him the favorite to me. But of course, Camp will be the decider. If Tony Bradley's really whipping in threes, he's got certainly a shot. The other part of this that I forgot is Delon Wright played with Pascal Siakam before. That relationship really matters. And that's not something he said that made me remember that. It's Pascal Siakam walking past his presser while he's talking. And he goes, "What's up, D-Wright?" Really loud. So That certainly helps as well. And also, he has gone against TJ McConnell so much as backups together in the past that he's excited to be his teammate now. That's not everybody's excited to be teammates in camp. I shouldn't throw the fluff stuff in here, but alas, I have so many notes from stuff people said. Aaron Nesmith said that he hadn't even heard the term gap year before, but he likes the idea of the Pacers being underestimated, called it ridiculous that the gap year would even be such a concept. He likes Dylan Wright as a veteran presence, and the fact that he's been around for a while in his summer. Aaron Nesmith featured a lot of running, getting in shape, and now he's happy that things are flowing in well with the new guys. And that, my friends, is Pacers training camp week 1. Let's talk about Fan Jam. That's happening Sunday. Let's talk a little bit about Myles Turner and stuff being said on the internet. Once again, to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do any of that, we got to talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss, and it's no ties. They have no ties. I'm glad the 49ers and Rams did not tie. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet. You put down $5. If it hits, boom, you unlock $300 in bonus bets you can use across the app. Many people love using FanDuel for so many different reasons. They give you lots of ways to play, building parlays, player props, even following live games during the action. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the game. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today, and you can get started. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make your second listen Locked On Bucks. That's where Myles Turner plays now, and we're about to talk about him and some of the stuff that has once again sparked controversy among the internet world. But he is on a new team, and going to do good things for that team, and they'll be playing the Pacers very early in the season. And then after that, we will basically not have to talk about this as much because people hate this. So here's what happened this time. Myles Turner has said lots of things this summer since leaving the Pacers. The most recent one that has people chattering is on, I believe, Media Day for the Bucks. He said, quote, "I'm in a city now that wants to celebrate me. There's a great quote that says, 'Go where you're celebrated.' I feel like that's here." Many fans immediately interpreted that as a shot at Indy, at the Pacers, at Pacers fans, at everything. What? He's not celebrated in Indy, where they did the campaign for his Defensive Player of the Year with the Legos, and they had a fan section named after him, albeit he participated in that decision and all sorts of supportive things over the years with contracts, things of that nature. I understand that, again, being in trade rumors all those years, you could make the easy argument the other way, but regardless, that is why people hated that comment, right? It felt like, what are you talking about? The Pacers clearly supported you. Here's what I will say before I talk about Turner's response. Every time any NBA team hires a new coach, they say the same thing or some version of the same thing. The coach is sitting up there, and the front office guy who hired the coach says, "We love this guy. He's so innovative. He's so creative. He does this and that thing." And no one ever listens to those and says, well, that must mean the last guy didn't do those things. Right? They just view them as positive traits about the person that they're talking about. And same thing when like new, like elected officials come in. They're like, well, this guy's going to do this, this, and this. Like, it doesn't mean the old person wasn't necessarily. It just means like, this is something good about the new thing. When I read all these Myles quotes about all this stuff he likes about Milwaukee and the Bucks, I personally interpret them as just that. He is literally just saying, I like the Bucks. Here's a reason why I like Bucks that I'm on. However, I will say that they certainly come off a certain way. So I don't view what he said. So his follow-up was to that quote really blowing up. He said, "This quote has nothing to do with Indy fans and everything to do with my free agency experience." So I don't think that, again, it had anything to do with the Pacers per se. I don't think that I think some of the things that people have interpreted as a shot to the team have decidedly not been that, and they've just been spun out of control for no reason. I did appreciate this one, specifically noting his free agency experience. I still wonder / suspect that the way negotiations went with the Pacers made him feel like he wasn't being celebrated by a team that he had put 10 years into, and now he's on the Bucks. So just another more salt being added to this pile, but I don't agree with the opinion that every time he talks, it's a shot at the Pacers. I mostly think he is literally just saying, and this goes back to other quotes he said throughout the offseason and in various moments. I literally just think most of the time he's saying, like, I love the Bucks because of this thing. And that's not to say that if he was on the Pacers right now, they wouldn't be giving him similar or the same things. But I do understand the way they come off. I'm not naive to that. I understand why fans feel the way they do. Just keep that perspective in mind as this process goes along. Like when Tyrese Haliburton came to Indy and said that, he loves hard and he really wants to dive in with the team. Like no one was like, wow, he's taking shots at the Kings. And like, I guess some people did. I didn't view it that way, but it didn't feel the same way. And I'm surprised people are doing it now. But anyway, that's the Myles Turner stuff. Interpret it however you want. I'm not telling you how to feel. I just would like to share my thoughts on that, especially as Myles himself provided clarifying thoughts. And I'm sure many people just clicked off this podcast because they're so sick of me talking about Myles Turner. One more thing to get to today. Fan Jam is Sunday, the Pacers' first scrimmage of the year. And it's really interesting the way Fan Jam is because with Rick guiding the team, they've kind of leaned into making it not like a serious thing, but more serious, right? They have real refs. They, actually make subs. They coach it a little harder, right? It's an actual way to make it feel more like a game experience. It's impossible for it to feel like a preseason game because you're still playing against your teammates, right? But if you want to maximize what it is, which is still hey, fans, come have fun, right? We're going to do goofy stuff. But you're going to also, if you want it to be a useful day of practice time or a useful day of training camp, making it more serious does make good sense to me, so long as nobody gets hurt and you're not overdoing it. So things I'll be watching for. One, what the teams are, right? They do very often put the starting lineup and bench groups on different teams. Basically, the centers are the most important one. To me, what teams are they on? I think we have a sense right now that Isaiah Jackson's been with the ones more often, but we'll see as time progresses where that shakes out to be. So what are the teams? Literally, what are the teams? Who plays with who? What are the subs? How does that look? 2, new guys. Just seeing them in this system at all. Jay Huff and his size. How does he look next to guys? How does James Wiseman look? And Isaiah Jackson look coming back from injury? Cam Jones, welcome to the NBA. What can you show on this stage? And thing 3, who's running the costumes? Myles Turner did it for forever. I have no idea who's going to do it now. I would have thought Tyrese Haliburton. He's now injured. Maybe he'll still do it. He loves that kind of stuff. But I think that a lot of the takeaways with Fan Jam and preseason in general for me usually are the same thing. It's what about the new stuff? What can we learn about stuff that we didn't already know about this team? And that does apply to young player growth and things of that nature. But I think that the newest, rawest stuff that we know nothing about will be what I'm keeping my eye on and what I encourage you guys to do. I'll be there Sunday, and we'll talk about that Monday, among many other things. And then we'll get right into the preseason. They play a preseason game next Tuesday. Pacers Hoops is officially back. Thank you guys so much for listening today and this week as the season has restarted. It's been a crazy week for me. I hope the shows have still been good and of high quality and enjoyable to you. Next week, of course, games are coming, so we'll be talking plenty more Pacers, and you can find me talking about the team on social media at Tony R. East on Twitter and Blue Sky. This podcast is at Locked On Pacers on Instagram and Twitter. Back Monday talking more Pacers. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.